Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Musings with MGL. I'm doing a couple of them back to back today. I just did one on bug out guns. So if you like that, uh, check out the rest of my videos and see what my thoughts are on what would be the best bug out gun. But then now I'm switching into something a little bit more topical, a little bit more serious, I guess. Although I don't know, with the way things are going in the world right now, thinking about the bug out gun that you want to have is probably a good idea. But I'm going to muse a little bit. Musings with MGL. So I'm going to muse a little bit about what's going on in Minneapolis. I'm not going to make this, political or get into choosing sides or whatever. I just kind of want to muse off the top of my head about what's going on, what my thoughts are on it, and how I perceive those things. So I'm going to start by saying, outside in Florida, there's bugs. We don't edit here. I've said that before. I don't edit. So one of the things that I got to put out there right away is, like everyone else, when I saw that video, I was disgusted. Okay, it made me sick to my stomach. I think it's clear, in my opinion, that these officers were in the wrong. As a defense attorney, I do practice criminal law. I used to be a prosecutor as well, and I actually used to be a prison guard too. So I've run the gamut up and down law enforcement from all sides, and the criminal justice system from all sides. And looking at it, I think it's clearly a case of second-degree murder, manslaughter, something along those lines. I'm not prepared, by only looking at this short video, to claim it's some sort of premeditated first-degree murder. Like, I'm sure there are people out there that think that, and they can certainly think that, and they're probably justified in thinking that. But from my perspective and looking at it, for first-degree murder, it's got to be like premeditated. Like, I went there, my entire plan was to murder the guy. I didn't care if people were filming it. I just wanted to murder the guy. And I don't see that necessarily in the video, and that may be my biased for all my years in the criminal justice system of things that I have seen and things that were prosecuted as first degrees versus second degrees. So I believe that this probably fits more in the line of something along those lines, because I think it's clear that these were cops that were arrogant, obviously, and callous. They didn't care about the man at all. They didn't care that they were being videotaped at all, which is just insane to me, knowing that was going on, and they just didn't care. The one guy, the cop that had the knee in the back of his neck had his hands in his pocket, like he was hanging out in church or something like that. Like, he just didn't give two flying craps about what was happening to the man that was underneath his knee. And I think the other officer, I believe he's Asian, had an arrogant look on his face and was more concerned, obviously, with trying to keep people back, and didn't really care what was going on behind him. Again, they didn't care about the fact that they were being videotaped, which is what tells me that it wasn't intentional. Like, if you're going to murder somebody and it's in your head, I'm going to murder somebody, usually when a whole bunch of people are filming it, you don't murder the person, because that's not a good way to get away with murder, is to do it right in front of dozens of people with cell phone cameras. So that's why I think it's more along the lines of depraved indifference, malice, and all those kind of things that would normally come along with a second degree or a manslaughter. But no matter how you shake it, look, these cops were wrong. Okay, and I'm a pro law, even as a criminal defense attorney. I have a lot of friends who are in law enforcement. Like I said, I used to be a prison guard. I have a lot of friends who are still in law enforcement. I met them obviously as a prosecutor, even as a defense attorney. I'm not one of those defense attorneys that thinks every cop is lying and planting evidence and violating constitutional rights. They're people just like everybody else, and a lot of them are really good friends of mine. We hang out. We're social Facebook friends. When I see them in court, everybody's cordial, everybody's fine. However, after doing this for 20 years as a lawyer now, both as a prosecutor and a defense attorney, and several years as a prison guard before then, going all the way back to, I used to be in local police explorers, which is like a Boy Scout kind of thing with law enforcement, where you do ride-alongs and all that kind of stuff. I've kind of been immersed in the criminal justice law enforcement area ever since I was like 15 years old, give or take. My undergraduate degree is in criminal justice, so I have a lot of history in that. So based on my 30-year history, give or take, of being involved in this, there are bad cops out there. I don't think anybody disagrees with that. There are cops, a lot of them, who are arrogant, self-righteous. They think they're better than everybody else. There are people who, a friend of mine, my cuz, put it as there were guys that were crossing guards when they were kids with their yellow thing on, and the power goes to their head, and they like that power, and now they're still wielding the power, but now they have a real badge and a gun to go along with it. You also have people that were, bullied on and picked on in high school, and now, they're taking out that anguish on the citizenry that they're sworn to protect and serve. And look, some people are just dicks. I mean, in every profession you'll find out there. Look, as a lawyer, I can tell you there are a lot of dicks out there. There are a lot of jerks out there, and there are a lot of bad people out there. It doesn't matter what their profession is. So I'm pro law enforcement in the sense of I support the need for law and order and criminal justice. And again, a lot of them are my friends, but I'm under no misunderstanding that these things happen and that these cops were out of line, and they should be charged or prosecuted with whatever laws fit in the state of Minnesota. I'm not one of these people that usually jumps all over the federal government to get involved in these things. As a conservative, as a rugged individualist, as a constitutionalist, I like the divided government. I like our federalist system. I think that this is a local situation. This is a murder, manslaughter, whatever you want to call it, that occurred in the city of Minneapolis, and it's the city of Minneapolis's problem to deal with, or at the most the state of Minnesota. It's not a case for somebody to come in from Washington D.C. and all of a sudden make a decision on what should happen in this case. I've never been a fan of any of these kind of federal laws that come in and step on local laws and assume jurisdiction that I don't believe that they have. So I'm not a fan of that. I mean, the president's going to do that or whatever. They investigate it, but I'm not a fan of that. I think this is a local issue that should be dealt with locally. They were fired. There should be a grand jury, just like everybody else. They deserve due process, just like everybody else. As a criminal defense attorney, I can look at the video and personally believe that they're guilty. I think it's clear on the video. I don't think there's anything they could say about what happened before then or anything that would justify what I saw on the video. However, as a defense attorney, they still deserve due process. There's a lot of people out there that are just calling for them to automatically be arrested and be buried under the jail and all that kind of stuff, and that's not how it works in America. Just like that man who died deserved due process and did not deserve to be executed on the street, those law enforcement officers deserve due process as well, and that due process should work itself out. They were fired. There's going to be an investigation. There's going to be a grand jury, and they're going to be prosecuted for whatever charges fit their crime. And if they're found guilty, they should get whatever punishment fits that crime. I'm all for that. I think everybody in America is all for that. But what you see now is it's morphed into the riots, of course, that are going on. And I'm not going to call them protests. There are probably, like every other situation like this, legitimate people that are out there just wanting to protest and get their point across. And every time you try and do that, there's a bunch of jackasses that come out and take advantage of that situation and think that because somebody has been injusticed that they're now entitled to a free TV or an upgraded radio from Target or whatever their other local businesses are just because they can take advantage of the situation. They're not out there protesting against corrupt cops or corrupt organizations or institutional racism or whatever you want to call it. They're out there just to steal stuff. And I'll never understand the mentality of seeking justice by upgrading your car stereo for free. That doesn't make any sense to me. Now, maybe it's because I don't understand, being a white guy who lives in a suburban neighborhood in Florida, I certainly have no understanding of what it's like to be a black person living in an urban area. I certainly have no doubt that they go through significantly more struggles than I've probably been through in my life. And I understand that, and I can be empathetic with that. And I think all of America right now is empathetic right now. Like, there's nobody that I've seen come out and justified this in any way or tried to stick up for the cops. I mean, even on Facebook, I have a lot of people, when there's an incident like this that happens, people post it, and then there's certain people that you know who they are. Everybody's got them in their friends list that no matter what will always come to the defense of law enforcement. Well, until you strap on a belt and go out there and do it yourself, you'll never know, what it's like. How dare you criticize people in law enforcement? You don't know what it's like unless you're willing to go out there and do it. We all hear that nonsense. But on this particular case, the normal people that I hear say that are dead quiet. Like, nobody that I know who normally comes on posts like this on Facebook are now coming out and saying the same thing about these guys. Because I don't think anybody can look at that video and say that it was justified or try and justify it in any way. So what's sad about this situation is everybody is on on these protesters' side. Like, everybody pretty much in America says, you're right. This was wrong. The guy was murdered. These people should be prosecuted and they should be thrown in jail for what they did. Like, nobody's against that. But then, which is why it tells me that that's not what this is about, because it's not a situation of them saying it's not fair, or people are ignoring this case, or we need to get justice for him because there's no other way to get justice. Justice is happening. These people are being investigated by everybody from local law enforcement all the way up to the FBI. So everybody's on their side, which is why it makes it clear that when they're going out there and breaking into a Target and stealing all of this stuff, it's not about the justice. It's not about this man who's now dead and his family who don't have their child anymore. It's about, what can I get? It's about exploiting the situation and taking stuff. And again, I'm not passing judgment. I don't want to get necessarily political on it or anything like that, because I haven't walked a mile in their shoes. I haven't lived their lives. So I understand that maybe I don't get it, and maybe this is what they feel is the only way that they can express this. But I've never understood, and I don't think I ever will understand, the idea that if injustice is happening in your neighborhood, the response is to burn down the businesses in your neighborhood, is to loot the businesses in your neighborhood. It's to take money out of the mouths of your neighbors who run these businesses, or the people who work at the Target, and the Target's now not opened. So now their neighbors who actually work at the Target, one of the few stores that's still open in America, now they don't have their job. And now you've taken money out of their mouths. And that Target probably will never open in that neighborhood again. Well, I wouldn't. Why would you? I would shut the store down and move somewhere else. So now you've taken probably those jobs away from people for forever. And so you're not accomplishing what you want to accomplish. And now all those people out there that were on your side are now going to have to get defensive and say, look, I understand what your concern is, and we support you, but now you're going to lose our support because I don't support you burning down a building and stealing stuff. So you're defeating your own intent and your own purpose to fix this issue. Everybody was on your side and willing to find some way to fix this issue, but now the story has morphed from what happened to this poor guy to what's happening to Target, and you've lost your narrative. You've lost your cause, because you're taking away the focus from where it should be, and that's sad. That's sad. That's tragic. I think this is, again, just to recap, it's clearly, I believe, a case of some sort of crime, murder, second-degree murder, manslaughter. I told you where, from a lawyer standpoint, where I think that should land. But I also think it's clear that this is now morphed from something that it wasn't supposed to be. And I just feel sad for the people who are involved in this, because I'm sure they are frustrated. And a lot of us try and empathize with that and want to do something about it and take their side. But then it makes it awful hard to do that when you turn around and start looting stores and stealing the stuff. So unfortunately, it's now muddied what was a clear case of injustice that was going to be righted with all due speed by this country. And now I'm afraid we may have lost an opportunity to do that, and people are just now going to retreat to their corners like we always do in today's politics, instead of dealing with the issue. So it's pretty sad, but a lot of things are going on in this country right now. I mean, you've got a lot of businesses still shut, people still on lockdown. You got racial things like this now flaring up. The temperature's about to go through the roof. A lot of people are getting worried that this might be a long, hot summer, and my fingers are crossed that doesn't happen. Hopefully there's some swift justice that comes along. It's got to be fair, though. It's got to be due process. I'm not calling for swift justice that takes away these guys' due process rights or turns into some sort of a posse or mob or something like that. That's not going to cut it. There needs to be swift and fair justice, and hopefully people will see that that's what happened, and then people can move beyond this and we can get by. So until then, prayers for that man's family, prayers for the city, prayers for the people who are losing their job, prayers for the businesses who are losing their business. It's just an all around sad situation. So that's my musings with MGL today. A little bit of a downer on that topic, but everybody else is talking about it, so I figured I'd like to get my musings out there. So as always, again, if you disagree with what I have to say, if you have some comments, please put them below. I always welcome all that stuff. Like and share, subscribe, tell all your friends about it. In the meantime, stay safe, stay vigilant, and as always, carry on.